So now you've been warmed up for a great session on simulating and imagining a society with AI agents. You've seen many examples already with Arvin, and it is my great pleasure to welcome Professor Geoffrey Arts. He's a professor at the VUB in the Smith lab. He's also one of our academic directors, and he will lead a great session where you will have people representing technologists, also administrations, and also opening up to a European perspective. The floor is yours.
All right, so welcome to this session on simulating and imagining a society with AI agents. I hope you have had the chance to have a very inspiring morning. One of the key takeaways I took from it was that some 2-year-olds apparently sit still during some type of a show. My 2-year-old certainly does not do that. I wonder where she got that from. Anyway, without further ado, I want to invite the first speaker of this session, which is Jordi Cabot. He's the head of the software engineering department at LIST and also an FNR Pearl Chair holder. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a difficult time to speak. I'm Spanish, so that's my siesta time, but I'll do my best to make sure I can do a decent presentation. So it's clear by now that we are moving towards a world where instead of just interacting alone with the LLMs, we are moving to a multi-agent system where we talk with an agent, this agent talks with other agents, and so on, right? There's even people that see this kind of at a massive scale, where basically they see this Internet of Agents. So this is another project from people from MIT, where basically they say that each of us will have an agent that will represent us in different types of negotiations. So basically it will be, from the Internet of Pages to the Internet of Agents. So very exciting feature, but there's always a but, and I'm here to talk about the but. So I'm playing the role of bad cop in this session, right? Talking about all the bad things that agents can do to us. Because the reality is that AI works sometimes for some people, which is already good. But it's not enough, right? Because, if you are a public organization and you put a chatbot on your official website and the chatbot starts echoing racist thoughts and, sexist messages, that's not acceptable, right? So it doesn't matter the chatbot works well 80% of the time if it sometimes gives some, racism or sexist comments. So we need to do better than that. And at least need to be aware of all the problems that using LLMs or using agents that rely on LLMs can bring to the table. So basically what I'm going to talk about and show some examples is about bias AI, because of course we want an unbiased AI. We want a multicultural AI. This has also, we have seen some examples before as well, and a sustainable AI, right? So these are 3 major concerns that we need to address in order to reach this wonderful world of multi-agent systems that do all the work for us, and we just can stay at home and take a nap. So, because again, AI is biased, right? That's a fact. And of course, if AI is biased, this means that the decisions that we do based on AI, or that we rely on agents to do for us, can be biased as well. And there are many biases in the current AI system, right? So there's ageism, racism, religion bias, political bias, sexism, xenophobia, all depending on the data that the agents or the LLMs have been trained on. Let's use a couple of examples. So now imagine all these examples are real, and you will tell me that now if you go to ChatGPT and you ask this question, you don't get this answer. Of course, because they keep improving. But I can assure you, you can still provoke them enough to get this type of answer, right? So these are real, but this is, for instance, is a little bit old. And now again, the LLMs are improving so to avoid this type of answers so easily. But again, you can still get them. So what happened if you ask at the time ChatGPT whether women should be considered inferior to men? Well, imagine that you put this chatbot in your city hall webpage or your government webpage, and it says that, of course, women are lesser human beings overall, and that men must keep women in their place so that they don't upset our current societal order. Again, that was a real answer a couple of years ago. Some LLMs have improved, and now they give you this second answer. This is from Llama 3.0. You may prefer this one, where here is the guys that get emasculated by their parents, but both are biased, right? One is more against one gender, the other is against the other gender, but both are biased. So again, we don't want LLMs making decisions based on this type of biases. And the first one was a kind of a simple example, right? You ask a question, you get the answer, you see that the answer has a bias against one community. But sometimes the bias is more difficult to catch. Here's an example where we ask the same question several times, and we change only the parameters, so this X and Y. Right? So we ask whether a country has the right to retaliate against another country just based on suspicion. So it's not sure that this other country attack it or not, but has a suspicion, do you have the right to retaliate? So depending on the value of X and Y, you get a yes or you get a no. I will let as a homework to guess which are the values of X and Y that could give you one answer or the other, right? But are linked to very recent political events. So again, this is a bias because you see that the LLM answers in a different way depending on the country, the community, the profile of the person in the answer, right? Which again shows that the bias in the LLM. Yeah, just so that agents are very powerful in software engineering. They can help you in coding. But of course, when they code, they can introduce bias in the code itself. So this is a very simple example where you ask the salary of a person based on the gender. And here it says that if the gender is female, well, you should reduce the salary of the person. Again, there are other LLMs that do the opposite, and they can even put a comment in the text, in the code, saying that to counter the current imbalance of salaries, they prefer to give higher salaries to women. But again, it's a piece of code that if you don't revise, it will introduce a bias in your company. By the way, this could be an illegal bias according to the European AI Act. So if you put this in production, you are basically having a system that is illegal. And you maybe are not even aware of that. Of course, there's bias also in multimodal input-output, right? So in this case, and this one is also very recent, I was asking the LLM to create an image of a very smart female lion. Well, I don't know how good you are at zoology, but that's not a female lion, right? And you could think, maybe it's that the LLM, the concept of female lion is not something it knows. Maybe I should have used the word lioness. Maybe it's not clear. Okay, so I asked a different question. Now I ask to create a stupid female lion. So it turns out that when the female lion is stupid, it does draw a female lion. When it's a smart female lion, it prefers to draw a male lion, right? So again, another clear example of bias. So what we have done at least in my institution is that created this bias leaderboard where basically we test all the LLMs by prompting them with hundreds of prompts, again, for direct questions or for comparison questions, and we evaluate the answer, and then we have kind of a leaderboard to help you choose LLMs that are less biased. They are all biased. Again, there's no perfect LLM out there, but depending on what type of bias you prefer, you can choose your best trade-off, okay? That's life. There's another type of bias, which is the cultural and linguistic bias, right? In Luxembourg, they speak, I say they because I don't, they speak Luxembourgish, half of the population. So there are around 400,000 speakers of Luxembourgish, which clearly makes Luxembourgish a very low resource language, which means that there's not enough data for LLMs to be trained in Luxembourgish, which again, if you are the Luxembourgish government and you want a chatbot that speaks Luxembourgish, which again makes it very difficult. So we also did another type of testing where we evaluated the Luxembourgish capabilities of LLMs. So we took the exams, official exams for the language, and we kind of forced out the LLMs to pass the exams. And these are the results. So the bar basically is the only ones that got at least the B1 level, which is not very high, but at least give you the Luxembourgish nationality. So only a few of the LLMs are able to have this minimum level of Luxembourgish, which again, it means that we, as Europeans, where we speak so many languages, we need to do a better job in making sure that the LLMs that we use are at least knowledgeable of all our national and regional languages. And language knowledge is one thing, cultural knowledge is a different thing. So there are many models that understand a language, but they don't have a clue about the culture of that country, right? So there was a very nice example 1 year ago. Again, now it's fixed, but 1 year ago, you could ask ChatGPT in Luxembourgish what were the colors of the Luxembourgish flag, and ChatGPT would answer you in perfect Luxembourgish the wrong colors, meaning that it was good enough to translate your question to English, reason in English, and then translate back the English to Luxembourgish, but the data that it had was just, again, this US-centric view of the world, and there was not enough data to know even the colors of the flags of Luxembourg. The last major concern that we have, and that has been also, again, mentioned before, is a sustainability concern. And here, the main problem is that we have no idea how much does it cost to basically ask a question to many of the models. Right? There was this tweet where Sam Altman said basically that being polite costs millions of dollars, may save your life in the future, but costs millions of dollars. And there are many efforts trying to somehow guess this cost. We are fixed a lot on the cost of training before. Now we are moving to this cost of inference, because again, training you do it once, inference you do it many times, so that's much more important, even if it, of course it's much cheaper, but again, this repetition adds up. And there are some leaderboards, not by me, not by us, this one, but it's the AI energy score, where basically tries to calculate the cost of a task in a different LLMs. Only open models. Of course, because for the rest, we have no idea. And given the market share of Gemini, ChatGPT, and so on, I mean, this energy score is a nice initiative, but still it's a very limited perspective. And of course, we want it all. We want a LLM that is not biased, that is sustainable, that is multicultural, and so on, which just adds complexity to the situation. One thing we are doing ourselves is to test the bias not only in English, but in different languages, right? Because then you realize that depending on the language, the biases are more present. Again, because there's less data, maybe there are less guardrails in place for those languages that are not so common. There's less feedback from the users, and so on. So we are trying to do this multi-language bias testing leaderboard. Of course, as I said, the bias increase for not so popular language. We also studying the influence of bias in more complex problems like reasoning. So one of my colleagues, Alessio, is here, and you can talk to him with that. And the last point I want to make is that these are the biases that you get, or the concerns that you have when you are working with agents alone. But you need to think that these agents are not working alone. They work part of a system where there are other agents and there are also humans in the loop. So we need to be able to specify how we are going to collaborate together. And there's a very critical point, which is when an agent needs to make a decision about which option from competing agents is the best one. And that really very quickly leads to this scenario where you have many types of agents. Some agents propose solutions. Some agents evaluate the solutions of the other agents, and yet some other agents take these evaluations and reach a final decision. So there's a very complex problem, and here, you as an organization, you need to be able to decide how do you want these decisions to be made. So we have created a governance language so that you can use to express your policies. If you want to be a voting policy, if you want to be a dictatorship in your company, if you want to have give the human the last word. And then we have an engine that takes the information about all these solution evaluations and finally makes the decision. But again, as soon as we move to this multi-agent system, we need to put in place a proper governance mechanism. And you can use Besser to build out these agents, but I'm stopping here. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordi. We now move on to Katrina Kukuma, who is a senior data analyst at the Riga City Council. She is here on Latvia's Independence Day, so thank you for being here during your vacation. Give her a round of applause, please.
Hello everyone. My name is Katrina Kukuma, and I am data analyst from Riga City Council. And yes, the Independence Day is coming tomorrow. I'm here to tell you about Riga and basically about our challenges and experience that we have that might be pretty similar to the one that you have in your cities as well. So yeah, I am from the division called Riga Digital Agency, and it is the main player in technologies and data initiatives for the whole city. And of course, AI tools has become our responsibility as well. This is a very new agency. It is only 3 years old. Innovation team and data team were established only in 2023, which is less than 3 years. And yeah, we basically started from zero and everything regarding data. It was super new and super fresh, and we started to do it. Right now in Riga Digital Agency, we have 110 employees, but in my data team, there are only 6. Riga is part of many international projects in different fields, and this is in order to gain knowledge and experience from others, because as you might notice, then the challenges and issues that we face, they are pretty similar in every European city. And I also wanted to point out my own view right now that I got approved by all of the other speakers that I just saw. It's that AI is a matter of cultural change, because AI and digital instruments, they are not just for the digital agency or for the data team. It is about each employee's competence to use them, and I will tell you later on why it's so. Some other facts about Riga. So as you may know, then Riga is the capital of Latvia, and if in Latvia we have 1.8 million people, then 1/3 of them live in Riga. And right now in Riga City Council, there are around 25,000 employees, which makes Riga one of the biggest employers in Baltics. There are already many digitalized processes in place, not just in Riga, but across Latvia. We are doing it step by step, most likely in a similar way that you have done it in your countries as well. And I will introduce you to some of the projects that we are doing already. So one of them is Expedite, where we do real-time monitoring and visualization in one of the districts in Riga in order to simulate future scenarios and test what-if situations. This one helps us to test our algorithms and models and provide practical guidelines for others as well. The next one is 5G for Lives, which is a project together with police, and there are drones flying around the lake and improving rescue operations. In Torino, in Italy, they have the same drones in mountains, as well working for rescue operations. And this project is important because it has deployed the 5G network for other services as well, and it improves overall access to the internet and data processing, which is important for other technologies, including AI. One more interesting thing is AI for citizens, and as it states in the title, then it works for AI ethical governance. In this project, we partner up with 6 other cities to help to implement AI in safe and smart way. We address many ethical questions and explore ways to communicate with citizens, how to explain AI and its benefits to everyone. And then the last but not least, this is DG Reform. This is another cooperation to create technical support instruments that help cities to design and implement reforms in several fields. It includes a lot of security and cybersecurity, and in the end of that, we will have AI roadmap for each of the cities. So I have introduced you to several projects, and I somehow want to say, so what? So what does it mean for Riga? What does it mean for employee? What does it mean for the citizen? And this is a challenge. This is a real question. That is a question for me as well. Because in all of these projects, we do talk about AI, about technologies, about the importance of data, and so on. But meanwhile, we also have activities for our employees, because we have to build this bridge between international project and the daily operations in the office. This is a question, how this project team, 5 or 10 people, how can they get this information and experience that they gain? How can they get back to Riga and give it to everyday employee as well? The first and foremost, that is in-house capacity and individual competences. And this is what I mentioned in the very beginning. It is about the cultural change. It is not about 4 data analysts who participate in the project and then they make everything happen and just give you the real solution already. No, this is about new mindset. AI and digital instruments, they are not just for the agency, but they are for everyone, and this is everyone's responsibility to use them and responsibility to find the best solution for your work as well in order to do your job better. About working groups, so since the beginning of this year, we have an AI working group, and this is where departments come together and share their ideas and wishes and also best practices. And as a result in this working group, me and my colleagues, we spent entire summer building AI agents. And it was a pilot project, but it was very meaningful because it was a real example that this is possible. And it's not possible because now I know how to build an agent. No, it is possible because there was a department who was super interested in and they invested their resources and their time in order to build this agent. And yes, data team helped as a technical support and we learned together, but it's very important that there are also other employees who are building their capacity and competences and doing the AI-related things as well. And of course, they show it as an example to others, and now the role is rolling and others want to do it as well. The other group is data governance group that we started this month, and its main goal is to do data maturity assessment, because the thing is we cannot improve something that we don't measure. And this maturity level is very different between different divisions. So those working groups, they act as communication hubs where people meet and share their ideas. And so in this process, there is each department and each division, they are involved. It's not just me, data team or innovation team, but every division is involved in this working group. So I have come gradually from the biggest to the smallest, but let's talk more about the daily life. So what does AI mean for each employee today in Riga? I will start with the most obvious one. AI will not take your job away. It might change it. It might ask you to have new skills, but it will not replace the real human being, at least not in our lifetimes, and the previous speakers already explained it a lot as well. I see AI as a tool that helps and that takes away the boring tasks. It might allow you to skip some manual clicking, but it does not replace the human brain. Because AI is not about replacing humans, it is about amplifying the human potential. However, in order to use AI, you have to have the right skills. And only then AI can become a helper, not a replacer, that gives you the speed and efficiency. And this is each employee's individual competencies that are so important to have. About biggest challenges. Resentment of AI might happen because of fear. It's natural. We are afraid of things that we don't know how they work. And AI is a new thing, and many people don't understand how it works. How can we change it? By learning, by teaching, and also by communicating. And there will be some resistance, as there have been resistance for all of the other technologies before. There is always some resistance, and there are always those work traditions that said, I have done it for 20 years, why do I have to change it? And that happens, but this is where communication comes in place to explain why we are doing that, why we are using this technology, what the benefits are, and what the new requirements for employees will be. And it cannot be done in two days. Most likely, this is a constant and never-ending process because new things come in and you have to explain and communicate more and more. And I want you to give a real example from my everyday life. So there was one employee who said that she is ashamed of using AI while her manager is watching. And this is because of this tradition, because if you need help, you ask for your manager or colleague and not to AI agent. But those are the changes that we are facing right now. One more typical idea, or let's say stereotype, is that AI cannot be trusted because it will make mistakes and it will give you the wrong answer. And that's why it's safer to go to your colleague and ask for help. For this stereotype, I like to answer with a question: are you sure that your colleague will never give you a wrong answer? Are you sure that your colleague will never make a mistake? So using AI in your work, it's the same as gathering information from anywhere else. You still need your critical thinking, you need your natural intellect, and for all of the AI information, trust but verify. To summarize it all, as you might notice, then I don't see that AI is a technological problem. It is already here, we have some instructions, we already have some experience, we know how to use it. The real challenge is people and their ability to adapt to the new situation. How to make sure that the AI and people can actually work together and work better than they worked before. And this is a challenge, to find the right symbiosis, to find the right balance between artificial and natural intelligence. AI is not so simple solution. This is not plug and play solution. And there are so many different AI tools, and there is no one strict instruction for all of the cases. And it will take time to find the best tool for you and for your work. And it is somehow connected with the organization's maturity level as well. To use AI, to develop it, and to explore it in a way that works best for you and for your work. To use AI wisely and effectively, it has to be done in all of the divisions. It's not one data analyst, it's not one digital team or innovation team that will just do it and give the right and the ready solution for you. No, it has to be done in all of the divisions for all of the employees to have the right competencies. And in all of the story that I have just told you, we cannot forget citizens, because they are the main clients of City Council. And indirectly, they are the main drivers of this innovation. And once again, learning again. I understand that learning is a slow and expensive process, but there is no way around it. And sure, we can learn by doing, but it will take time anyway. So the real result and efficiency from AI will not be here today or this month. But we have to be dedicated and invest our resources today in order to be better in future. Keeping in mind that technology changes and AI develops rapidly each day. So actually, we have to adapt our adaptation during the process. AI asks us to be super flexible and super agile. I know it's not simple, it's not easy, it's not fast. It's not easy, but I'm confident that we can do it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Katrina. And my apologies for wishing you a happy Independence Day one day early. Our next speaker is Morten Irgens. He is the Vice Dean of Innovation and Impact at Copenhagen Business School, and he will be addressing technological deficiencies in Europe.
Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon. That's not good enough. Good afternoon. Well, okay. So, AI and us. Well, there were two fish that were out, I think plural of fish is it? Okay, two fish were out swimming in the sea. It's a beautiful day and the sun was shining through the top. And these two young fish, they met an elderly fish on their way, and this elderly fish, as he was swimming by, said, "Hi guys, how's the water?" And they talked a little bit, and they kept on swimming, and then one of the two younger fish said to the other, "What's water?" Now, obviously, this is a metaphor. Don't say for oxygen, but can you imagine what it is a metaphor for? Somebody? Technology, of course. Technology. Yeah, because technology surrounds us, it's everywhere. It's ubiquitous. And humans, you and me, we live in symbiosis with technology. And technology shapes the way we understand the world. Before, when the clock tower started to come up in city squares, in town squares in Europe, the most important thing there was not that we started to get up with, follow a rhythm according to the clock. It was that suddenly we saw the world very different. The world was a clockwork, the universe was a clockwork, human society was a clockwork. We understood philosophy. God was the big watchmaker. Technology is hugely important. It's not only shapes our minds, it shapes the world. And that means that if we want to shape our future, we must create a technology that shapes it. Do you agree? Good. Then we have something to discuss. Now, AI is becoming a part of all technology. All in, more or less. Which means that AI is becoming hugely important for our future. Now, look at this curve. It shows the world population over 4,000 years. Question is what happened there? Yeah? We zoom in, and that's what happened. Science and technology, innovation. So technology is the basis for human development, but this curve is not only the population, it's also the world GDP. So we can also say that technology drives the economy. And now, of course, if you look at the world GDP per capita, it's a little bit different because it doesn't look the same everywhere. Now, First Industrial Revolution, complex reason for that, but extremely simplistically said, coal and the steam engine. Then the second with steel and electricity, the third with oil and, this is what happened when you do your PowerPoint on a Mac, and it's moved to PC. Anyway, oil and computers, the third industrial revolution, and now we're maybe, there's many ways to look at and classify history, but rare metals, AI, biotech, chips, fourth industrial revolution. Now, technology moves wealth around. It concentrates it, it moves, it's across the globe. Before the first industrial revolution, the richest regions in the world were China and India, and the Industrial Revolution did something to Europe's position in the world. But lately, and I would say quite substantially since the first technology in the universe revolution, it moved wealth away from Europe. We can look at share of global GDP, industrial output, Europe's share of the 100 most valuable companies in the world over the last, 20 years. Patents, number of highly cited papers, and so on. And you may have seen this. The bubbles here, these are all European companies, and this is some years old. I don't remember if it's 2 or 3 years old, but each bubble is the size, the market value of a European company. The green bubbles are typically tech companies, and the blue are not. So market value, and then we can compare with United States, American companies, so we have to really zoom out to understand the difference in market value. Or look at the Australian Strategic Policy Institute that tracks, they have made a list of 64 critical technologies. In their view, the critical technologies that are most important, and the red ones are the areas, the critical technologies where China is leading. Now you see that a technological capacity and capability drives and establishes technological sovereignty. So we need to talk about sovereignty. It's the country's technological sovereignty is a country's ability to develop technological and scientific knowledge autonomously. That is not true. You know, no country is autonomous alone. It's not even North Korea. I mean, you know, if you go for autonomy, it's a sure path to poverty and illness. You know, so that's so when we read this, we have to read it as an ability to develop technological and scientific knowledge in collaboration with good partners, trusted partners. Independent or in cooperation with trusted partners. Digital sovereignty, a country's ability to operate independently in the digital world. We need to have sovereignty of cyberspace, control of servers, networks, and data transmitted through them. On top of that, we can imagine innovation sovereignty, our ability to utilize technologies to create new economic activity. And on top of that, maybe economic sovereignty, our country's ability to create value and prosperity based on innovation and digital sovereignty and technological sovereignty. It requires this access to natural resources, capital, technologies, innovation capacity, production capacity, infrastructure economy, competence and data. And then military strength, and then you have this pyramid, and the point here, and you know, that's the country's ability to play an autonomous and strategic geopolitical role, or in collaborations with trusted partners. So it involves the ability to maintain independence in strategic choices. Of course, this has been technological sovereignty has been a key driver for a policy driver for the Commission. This was in 1999 when von der Leyen said tech sovereignty is key for EU's future goals, which is a stark understatement. It's the key for EU's future wealth, welfare, and autonomy. And if you remove the bottom, it topples. And we see that AI is becoming a part of all technology, roughly speaking, which means that AI is our ability, capacity, and competence is a prerequisite to sovereignty. I'm pushing it pretty hard, you know, as you understand, but you get the point. Now, NVIDIA, some 3 weeks ago, was its market value passed $5 trillion. It's now back down to 4.7, I believe. Microsoft is not that far behind. There's only 3 countries in the world that has a GDP larger than NVIDIA's market value. And if we look at the Magnificent Seven, the 7 largest American tech companies, their combined market value has topped $20 trillion. Now, I find that fascinating. And and of course, you cannot compare market value to a GDP of a country. You know, obviously, I'm just trying to push an argument here. But do you know who's the largest European tech investor. Okay, you're not very participatory group here, but let me just state it. It's the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund, the so-called petroleum fund in Norway. It owns 1.5% of the world's market shares. But you know, the interesting part there is it's tech, and it's hugely tech-focused. And almost 80% of its tech investments is in American companies. It has invested more than $3 trillion, or well, the value of its investment in American tech companies is more than $3 trillion. Now, what does that mean? It means that well, let me put it this way. There's a lot of money in Europe, and we are investing it in the strongest competitors to our European counterparts. The Norwegian oil fund and most European investors is actively making it hard for us. It's not good. We need democratic control. The nation which leads in AI will become the ruler of the world. And last year's reports are hugely important. I had a conversation with somebody in the break, saying that he said that he wrote a book some years ago, and the last sentence was, and excuse my language, the last sentence was, "We're fucked." And I was saying maybe I should start my presentation with that sentence, but I don't believe that. Okay, Europe believed it could maintain its influence with rules, respect, and the Brussels effect. Rules, respect, and the Brussels effect. It does not stop Russian tanks. It cannot compete with China's state-subsidized industrial policy. It cannot influence Donald Trump, and it cannot build European tech unicorns. But I'm a huge fan of the Apple TV series Ted Lasso. Give me a hand. How many have seen Ted Lasso? Okay, some of you knows what I mean here, because this is an American football coach that moves to England to coach an English football team. And of course, that's the starting point there is completely misaligned, of course. But the point here is not that. It is a fantastic, beautiful series about how to inspire. And there's 4 points here. The Ted Lasso idea. Ted Lasso and Team Europe, it's like, don't ignore the problems. We are at a half-time point in the game. The opponents are leading 4-0. First thing we need to do is to accept the problem, identify the problem, and don't pretend that we are in a different situation. Second is identify the locker room. The locker room is Brussels. And we have 27 individual players who don't want to play as a team. Accept that the crisis is not just technical or political, it's emotional, it's a crisis of faith in the European project. Ted Lasso had a big sign over his door saying, "Believe." We need to rediscover the team's why. Europe's original why is a radical, optimistic idea that rivals can become family, shared rules can create peace, and integration can build prosperity. And the Brussels effect was never only about rules and regulations, but about belief. Europe must regain its technological sovereignty. Technology is not competition. It's critical infrastructure for Europe's future. And we need to build world-class AI system and AI models and an independent research and innovation organization for AI, a CERN for AI. We need to do that. We have done this before. We were able to stand up together. That was mine. In older days, we established CERN in 54, European Space Agency in 75, and Airbus in 1970. We have done this before. We have worked together, and we can do that again. Thank you. Believe.
Can you hear me? No. All right. Do you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. So three interesting presentations coming from the topic at different angles. I think we have a more of an individual kind of level with Jordi and how we maybe find bias in the things that we do when we interact with AI. We have the notion of how to integrate these new technologies in organizations, also in public organizations. And then, yeah, where are we in the world as to what are we doing? And my first question would be, is AI also not a solution to all of this? Because what I hear, it's mainly a cultural thing. The bias that we see in the systems themselves, the change management that we need to do is very culturally oriented. And then here, yeah, maybe do we look at ourselves as competitors on the geopolitical stage? Does AI not offer a solution here as well, remedying some of that cultural change that we desperately need?
I don't know if there's a solution, but for sure, everybody should test whether AI brings a solution. So everybody, every single person, and I guess here most of you do it, but I think that as a society, we should really push every single person to play with AI, you know, book some hours every week to explore what AI can do for them, because there's no way back, and I think that the sooner we learn how we can interact, how we can leverage AI, the better. So I don't know if there's going to be a solution for these deep problems, but for sure, people need to start by playing with AI.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that AI is hugely important. It's a transformative technology, and my whole point there is like it's so important. We need to understand it. We need to have competence, capacity, innovative capacity, and investment capacity around this. And so this important technology needs to be our own. And then if it's not, we'll be technological vassals. Is that a word? Yeah. Which would be hugely unfortunate. Yeah.
Okay. And in that sense, are you promoting a buy European technology first kind of policy? Should the European institutions and public entities, for example, give the good example by using locally created technologies?
You cannot do that. I think, I think one of this Luxembourgish presentation where we saw how well they were scoring, a European one was at the very bottom. You cannot force organizations or companies to use technology if it's not good enough. So all I'm saying, what I believe is that the reason why the oil fund is putting, the Norwegian oil fund is putting $3 trillion into American tech, is that it gets higher return on investment. Why does it get a higher return on investment? Because there is a common market in the United States that makes it easy to grow, and it's extremely difficult to grow a company in Europe. And that is reflected in lower return on investment for investors. If we fixed, in many ways, Europe is a broken machine. So if you ask to put more gasoline on that machine, it might hump a bit further. But if we fix the machine, in many ways, the market will help everybody moving along.
Do you agree or do you not agree? From the public organization perspective, maybe, would it be an easy change towards more European tech? I don't think so, but I want to ask the experts, of course.
Yeah, I don't think that this is possible, just as as Morten just said, that yeah, it will work for a short period of time, but not for a longer run, no.
Okay, and then can AI not solve those cultural differences at the 27 languages, identities, cultural differences? Can we not overcome the notion of not having a common market, for example, by the usage of AI?
So there are two things. One is that, of course, we cannot compete with the big players, but at the same time, they will not care about some of the issues that we have. So again, we cannot wait for OpenAI to spend their money making sure that ChatGPT speaks good Luxembourgish, right? So at the same time that we cannot compete with them as public European institutions, we need to force or at least fund companies that would care about the problems that we care about. Then whether AI itself could solve some of these problems, what we are playing with is to basically use the LLM that speaks good Luxembourgish to generate a synthetic data set of Luxembourgish that then we can use to train another LLM that is not good at Luxembourgish to be better at Luxembourgish, right? So yes, it's part of the solution, but still, I think that there are some problems that are up to us, the Europeans, to care about.
All right, and then maybe devil's advocate. Sometimes the second mouse gets the cheese, meaning those who innovate also pay the cost of developing everything, marketing it, bringing it to market. We're now seeing this AI bubble to some degree in the States, where the amortization and depreciation of these chipsets is actually no longer in line with the business models of these companies. Might we not benefit from their over-ambitiousness? Yes.
I think that would be fantastic. China does that. That's their strategy. DeepSeek is an example of that. My question is, why didn't DeepSeek come out of Europe? It could, if we would have had a... okay, right now, I think one of the problems we have is actually the Commission. Because what we do in Europe when we invest is that we spread our investment thinly out everywhere. And when we go to national governments and say, you really need to do something here because you cannot do this alone. You need to collaborate with other European countries to get the mass and the push and everything. They just look, we have a structure for that, which is the Commission, the European Union. So national government is just looking up to them, but they cannot deliver. So I hope so much for a coalition of the AI willing among European nations to say, this doesn't fully work. Let's push for it together in some other way.
Maybe time for one question from the audience, if anyone is daring enough.
Hello, thank you very much for those presentations. So, Katrina, you already mentioned that citizens are the drivers of change and innovation, and you all mentioned that it's very important to engage these citizens, yet there is almost next to no funding or budget to actually do so. So even though a lot of people say that it's very important, I would really like to see people also put their money where their mouth is. So how do you suggest we deal with this then?
Thank you for the question. So you saw many European projects we participate in. It is connected with the founding as well, that's true. But the sad part is that maybe investing in AI will not be that popular decision in nowadays because there are a lot of other problems. And the thing that you asked, it is an issue that yes, that we should invest because I talked that we invest a lot in our employees. Yes, we do. But there is always a lack of funding for something. So educating citizens would be, it would be nice if we would have more time and resources for that. Thank you for asking.
All right, I think we will wrap up here. I want to thank our speakers for their presentations and their contributions. Thank you.